Welcome to the Across the Bar podcast. I'm Peter Raybar.
And I'm Laura Brownstein. It's good to see you, Peter. You look very summery.
Thanks. I want to say two things right at the beginning. Two things. One, we're not in Sun Valley. And two, we don't have the Epstein list. So if you're listening to hear that, you're not going to have it.
This is something else I have in common with Pam Bondi now, not having the Epstein list, I guess.
What's the other thing you have in common with Pam Bondi?
Blonde?
Is that something you brag about?
Yeah, I think that's it. Those are the only two things, maybe.
Yeah, well, you might want to keep that one to yourself. So what are we going to talk about today, Laura?
Another week with no interesting news. Kidding. All right. I am dying to talk about Linda Yaccarino leaving X. I am dying to talk about all these rumors about things that Jeff Bezos is wearing. All these rumors about what Jeff Bezos is buying. I mean, I could also talk about things that they have worn, but this is about things that he is buying. The impact of DI programs being shut down. It isn't pretty. And then lastly, recruiting wars, and on one end, recruiting wars, on the other end, layoffs, and how interns should handle it. So let's start with Linda Yaccarino.
Yeah, so the big news out of X world this week, other than the Grok AI becoming completely anti-Semitic and crazy, is that Linda Yaccarino, the CEO...
Showing that it was completely anti-Semitic and crazy. I just need to correct. I think it always was. It just sort of started to say it out loud.
Yeah. Well, most AI is racist. That's why state laws have emerged to regulate the use of AI in hiring in particular. But yeah, we really saw it this week.
But didn't they just rule that individual states could no longer make laws controlling AI in their state?
No, that was part of the big, ugly bill that didn't get through.
Okay.
Getting back to Linda Yaccarino, I mean, no surprise that her term came to an end after not too much time. But for executives, I would say that the thing that I was really focused on, I'm sure you were focused on different elements of it, but the thing I was focused on, because I negotiate a lot of contracts for C-suite executives, is going into a situation like this where you know the company's crazy, where you know your boss is crazy, where you know your time could be very limited and you're leaving a job, a good job that she had at NBC, negotiating as much protection as you can into an employment agreement. And so there's been a lot of speculation over what the circumstances were, whether she was fired, whether she resigned, whether she was
layered. She was
layered.
Like once they joined the AI company with Twitter, she basically had been layered once and was getting layered again. And I wonder if, to your point, if there was anything in her contract about that, because that's such a smart thing to put in a contract.
Yeah, so it's one of the things I always look for executives is to put in what's called a good reason clause, which gives an executive the right to resign if a certain set of circumstances happen. And one of them is if they have like a reduction in their duties or their title or their authority, which would cover this type of situation where you're layered with a couple different executives, but your title doesn't necessarily change, but your responsibility does, your authority does. And so if you have a good reason provision, then you can trigger a resignation and get paid severance and then have your equity vest, depending on the deal and what the terms are.
So no way she didn't have a good contract. Like I
would hope so.
A dumb lady.
No, I mean, I would hope so.
Listen, I gotta say, while I don't agree with many of the choices she made while there, and I loved old Twitter. Like I had so many close friends that were so involved with making it the kind of bright, fun place that it was about 8 years ago, let's say. But even though I don't agree with everything she did, any woman that sees a glass cliff and is just like, give me my skates, this is my chance, I gotta respect. Like this was a glass cliff from the start. Glass cliff is when women take a job, when a woman is given a big shot job that has very little chance of success. Glass cliff, Marissa Mayer at Yahoo. And she knew it was that, and she just was like, let me at it.
Yeah, she did a really wonderful job. But, look, there's only so much you can, do, and certainly with a contract. And when you're dealing with a person like Elon Musk, who has a track record of ignoring contracts and agreements and laws, forcing people to sue him. So let's see what happens.
Good point.
In the next few steps of this breakup.
Most execs at Twitter did not get their full payout.
Yeah, and what I would have advised if I was working with her would be get as much as you can in cash that's payable, up front or as you go along, so that we'll negotiate a severance and a good reason provision and everything and try and have you protected. So if you end up in a court battle, you'll
Yeah.
have the contract, but try get as much as possible in cash. So
I listened to Pivot, of course, this morning, produced by the brilliant Lara Naiman. And they were talking about, Scott and Kara were both saying that they don't think he'll rehire someone in this role. He may have judged that it's more economical to not think of Twitter as an ad platform, but simply as a LLM for the AI, just as a language learning model.
yeah, that very well may be the case. I mean,
that is not far from the Matrix. Like, that is literally plugging in humans to something to power artificial intelligence, right?
Right. And just think of all the personal information that Doge allegedly took and just add that into the mix and maybe you're right.
Well, that's why a lot of people like Kara Swisher did erase all of her, I think it was her, maybe someone else, erased everything that was on Twitter because they don't want it to be able to be fed into the AI. That was interesting.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Is Jeff Bezos buying Condé Nast? What?
Yeah,
I don't believe it.
This is your favorite story. I mean, you've asked me like multiple times this week, is Jeff Bezos buying Condé Nast or Vogue or whatever? Yeah. There's other rumors that Jeff Bezos is buying the Yankees. Who knows what Jeff Bezos is buying? I mean, the one thing we could see, and that's been reported, is that he's been selling a lot of Amazon stock.
It's an expensive fucking wedding.
I think over $1 billion now, probably just to pay for
How much
wedding.
do you think that wedding cost them? Like,
honestly, I didn't
pay $1 million, but it had to have been like 20 million. What do you think?
Look, I said that wedding was my zero. And to follow up on that wedding being my zero, I did not pay attention to a single detail.
Okay.
So fair. You tell me, how much do you think it cost?
20 million. But I'm just saying a number. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the question is, did they have Krispy Kreme and Chick-fil-A as people were leaving? I mean, that's what people really want at weddings and bar mitzvahs. And
the fast food when you're leaving. Sure. Probably. I don't think they did that.
Probably not.
I really hope he does not buy Condé Nast. He pretty much drove me away from the Washington Post. And I don't want to be driven away from being someone who enjoys Condé Nast publications. And I didn't leave Washington Post because of him, but because of the decisions he made about the editorial mix that I would hate to see happen at Condé Nast.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's something to keep our eye on.
All right. You are very big on talking about the investment bank PE recruiting war, which I don't know anything about. What is this?
Wow. Way to distance yourself from this story, which some people may find fascinating and others may find.
No, I'm interested. I'm asking you about it.
Yeah. I mean, look, there was a series of stories this week about a battle. It's like a three-way battle. Okay. It's between investment banks like JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs.
Gotcha.
Their newest level of hire, their entry-level hires who are, go into 2-year, 3-year training programs.
That's like people right out of college?
Right out of college.
Okay.
And then private equity firms. And what private equity firms have been doing over the past couple of years is literally these college students who interview and get offers with investment banks for their training programs almost simultaneously or right afterwards are interviewing with private equity firms to get offers for jobs that start in their second or third year out of school.
Wait, how far ahead are they talking to the PE firms?
So, some do it while they're still in college. Some do it, during their first year.
A date to work for somebody in 3 years?
Right. That's right. And CEOs like Jamie Dimon and David Solomon at Goldman Sachs have been speaking out against this process. Jamie Dimon's been very blunt about it, as he usually is. And the story this week was that Goldman Sachs is going to require a, quote, loyalty oath every 3 months from its analysts to swear that they don't have another job. You may have heard that loyalty oath.
I did hear that.
Somewhere
but
else.
Does that go both ways? Does that mean they can't be fired then?
No, of course not. Of course not.
Is the company saying they're loyal to them, or is it just a one-way street?
No. I mean, they make a commitment to keep them in this program, but they still have the right to fire them if they want to. And by the way, it doesn't require them to stop like trashing these employees by either making them work, 100-hour work weeks or saying that, they're going to be replaced by AI.
That is insane.
What's the real story, guys? Are you going to replace all these entry-level employees with AI, or do you actually need them to come work for you, which
There
is what you're
is so
saying?
much dissonance. I feel like we are reading about such heavy-duty recruiting in some areas and so many layoffs and rumors of more layoffs in others. It's very
Right. And Laura, that's why people come to us to connect these dots for them. Okay. Because on the one hand, they're reading these stories about Jamie Dimon saying, we're going to replace half of you with, and others, we're going to replace half of you with AI. And then on the other hand, saying like, oh, we're so desperate to have you as our employees, you can't accept jobs anywhere else. And so, this is overly dramatic by these CEOs. If it's such a problem, make a policy, put a paragraph in the offer letter that says you're not.
I think that's one of those terms that, like, when you hear it come out of your mouth or your keyboard, you should take a beat and be like,
well, it's been
are seldom seldom play well.
It's been forever stained by this administration, right? I mean, that not only requires loyalty oaths, but puts employees under polygraph tests and things like that. But for the companies,
a polygraph test.
Oh, FBI employees. That was a story this week.
Sure.
Sounds like a real fun workplace. But look, if these banks have such a problem, make a policy, put a paragraph in the offer letter that says you can't accept other jobs. Like, end of story. And also, like, what happened to free markets?
But wait a second. Why is this on the individual level? Isn't there any leverage that the banks have on the PE firms that they could just tell the PE firms to stop? It seems like this is like prosecuting the person doing drugs, not the drug dealer.
They can't do that because that would be an antitrust issue to the extent that the government
couldn't say to private equity, like, don't poach or we're not doing this with you.
Right. I mean, that was a big problem on the West Coast with the tech firms, agreeing amongst themselves that they wouldn't poach employees. So they can't do that. Now, some firms, Apollo has come forward and said, that's a good point. We're going to start recruiting later. They didn't say when. But honestly, you're just bullying a bunch of 20-something-year-old kids. It's pathetic. And it's a free market. So if you can't offer an attractive job that these kids want to stay around for, that's on you. That's not on them.
Okay, let's talk about the many bad effects of DEI programs getting dissolved or shifted, etc.
Many bad effects.
Many. Yes, it's not
right.
great.
No, and in fact, I was just speaking with a reporter about this week, and the trend I've been seeing over the past couple of months is companies have been eliminating DEI programs under government pressure or anticipating government pressure. Is that I don't have like hard evidence on this, but I feel that women have really been the ones suffering the most. I've seen long-term female executives terminated out of the blue, and I would say disproportionately to others. And, I thought about this in the wake of the T-Mobile news that came out yesterday, that they shut down their program. So what are you seeing, Laura? What are you hearing?
Hearing a lot of people nervous, a lot of those programs were run by people of color, and then the programs were getting eliminated. And a lot of frustration from people who don't want their company's culture to change and feeling so much external pressure for it too. If somebody had told Ronald Reagan that his party would be telling companies what their culture should be like how to treat their employees, I can't imagine he would have been like shining city on the hill. Or was that him?
Yeah, well, we talked about this in our early episodes, and it was a warning that I gave in response to this. I mean, and that's the point. The government wants to they want to tell you how to run your business.
Do you know what that's called? That can be part of fascism.
Yeah, exactly. On the path.
So we love giving advice to interns. My internships were some of my best experiences. What is your advice to interns when people are being laid off? That is so uncomfortable.
Right. So we like to give advice to executives and pull out lessons, but we also, we have a very broad listener base, including many interns, and we have a intern network that we hear back from. And this week, and in the past few weeks, and as we predicted, a few weeks ago, there's going to be a lot of layoffs happening this summer. Interns are at companies where there are large groups of people are being laid off. And I'm sure it's a very scary moment to be in a company when you haven't had any exposure to layoffs, and all of a sudden you're seeing the people around you, your colleagues, your mentors, being told they no longer have a job. Like that's a very serious event. For interns, I would say don't be scared, don't be reactive, don't
Also,
take
don't be an
sides.
asshole though.
Yes,
Don't
be
like
compassionate.
don't post
Yeah,
pictures on your social of like all the interns partying like the day of the layoffs.
yeah, I haven't heard of that, but definitely don't do that.
And never
What I would say is,
post on social media anything private about your company. You will get found out.
yes, that's good advice.
And
But for the interns,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, if there is an executive that gets laid off that you feel like you made any kind of real connection to, don't hesitate to look them up on LinkedIn and send them a message and say, just wanted to let you know how much I learned from you. Hope I get the chance to do so in the future. Boom.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I
Those two
and I would
lines.
love to stay in touch,
Yeah.
something like
Let's
that.
stay in touch.
That's really good advice.
That's
Right. So I would say just like for immediate advice, just take in the situation. Don't
just keep your head
don't
down.
and offer support to people around you. But regarding your own
And
personal situation, don't get too
once
crazy
people
nervous.
have been laid off, look for opportunities to pick up projects that you might not have been assigned otherwise. Like, as bad as it is, sometimes when companies have to lay off their paid workers, there are more opportunities for their unpaid workers.
Well, they're not supposed to do that. And I would say if you're an
Sure.
intern, be careful about that. But what I was going to say is don't like freak out because there's going to be a lot of time. Your immediate thought is going to be, am I going to get an offer back here? Probably not. What am I going to do? Oh my God. And I would just say, be patient. There's a lot of time between when you're leaving and then potentially starting
This doesn't mean you're
next
not
year.
going to get the offer you're hoping for.
Yeah. It doesn't
And
mean
just
you're
because
not
they
going to.
lay off people over here doesn't mean they don't need new people coming in the pipeline over here.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Have you ever been laid off?
no. Have
You
you?
have not laid yourself off.
Yeah.
You have taken care of me when I was laid off from WeWork, along with 2,500 of my friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good times.
I talked to a lot of people who were laid off, and
Here's another thing I will say. If you're an executive high level and you are part of a mass layoff, if there is any way you can extricate yourself from the mass layoff room or moment and handle it privately on your own ahead of time for your mental health, do that. I did that with WeWork. Everybody it was all happening in a big mass, everybody being laid off one day. And I went to the HR team and I was pretty senior there. And I was able to say let's just work this out.
yeah, that's a really good suggestion. I actually just worked on a situation like that with someone who was very senior and, knew layoffs were coming and wanted to, had a skill that would be needed by the company and offered to do some transition stuff in exchange for being separated from the group. And sometimes I work with people who say, well, maybe I should raise my hand and save someone else's job. And certainly if you're in a position to do that and willing to do that, that's an amazing thing. So I've worked with people in all those situations, and I would say they're almost all successful and well received if that's what you're trying to do, unless you're
I will
mission critical.
also share one of my favorite stories of being a good boss. Lucy Danziger, when she was the editor-in-chief of Self magazine, we were at Condé Nast. It was 2008 or 9, 10. There were tons of layoffs in magazine land, obviously with downturn. And she was told she had to lay someone off. And they just said this much headcount. And she said, wait a second. At that point, all Condé Nast editors-in-chief had cars that just waited for them all day, took them everywhere, every single one. And she went to finance and said, if I give up my car service, can I save a job? And they were like, yeah, but do you want to? She's like, done. Saving one of the EAs. She was like, if I could save this girl, one of our EAs, let's do it. She totally saved the headcount and Vespa to work for.
You must have had a nice car service. Was it like the Maybach? She was like, I
No,
don't need
not at all.
Maybach
But when you
anymore.
have a car following you around all day, 7 days a week, that adds up to $24,000 what an EA makes. So
It's a great
is that a
perk.
good story? Lucy Danziger, the best.
Yeah, great.
All right, hero and zero. Actually, Lucy is my hero in that old story because she is just always in my hero hall of fame for being a boss who thinks that way. So
Shout out to Lucy.
yes. And you, Peter?
Well, you always tell me to keep this light. Hey,
You say I say that. I don't think I say that. I think someone else in your life says that.
No, I think you say it. Not so light. I'll keep it this week, though. My hero this week is Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who is not afraid to express her voice and is not afraid to call out what is happening right before our eyes with the court. And some people are trying to say she doesn't know her place or decorum, including some of the other justices. And I would just say, keep talking, keep speaking loudly. This is what we need to hear from our, not only our justices and our judges, but also our politicians.
Wow, our country is great when Black women speak up, speak truth to power.
Yeah, she's very brave. She's very brave. Even though she has a lifetime appointment, she's very
That's brave, though. That is still brave. I like that hero. All right, what's your zero?
So I will keep it light with my zero. My zero is Bill Ackman, who is a hedge fund manager in New York. But this week, there was a story that came out about how he may have bought his way into a pro tennis tournament. Of course, he denies it and says he was invited, but it's part of his quest to...
Why is that a big deal?
Well, it's a big deal because it's a pro sport. And here is like a rich guy trying to prove that he could do everything. And he in particular has this need to be a voice on every single topic in every single area. And this match, I mean, he got demolished. I watched part of it on YouTube. It was pathetic. The pro players were hitting it softly to him. I can't even imagine that people would pay money to go watch this.
Sounds entertaining, actually. I think I would pay money to watch get his ass kicked.
And then other pro tennis commentators were like, this is a low moment for the sport. I mean, what is this guy doing on a pro tennis court? So look, if you want to beat everyone at the club and get the trophy and the plaque, that's great. But, stay out of the pros.
Stay out of the pros. Okay.
Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane, rich guy. Right. Stay in your lane.
Billionaires think every lane is theirs is the problem, I think.
Well, that's the time we're living in now.
Yeah.
Important to call that out too, by the way.
Yes. And I will just say, I don't need a lot of words to say, Grok, not cool. Not cool. Yikes. Wow. Kids, really, really fascism is not something we should try at home. I know you think it's a hoot, but it's bad news. And, that's terrible and upsetting. And I think the larger moment is anybody who doesn't really look at their work from AI. Anybody who wants to use AI to assist their work, I say do it. I do it all the time. But if you don't carefully read over something before you send it, you're an idiot, because these platforms are obviously not only hallucinating and wrong, but insane frequently and racist. Right.
Well, I'll say two things to that. One is I did think it was important that Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL did revisit his support of Elon Musk's salute back a few months ago, where they came out and they said it wasn't a Nazi salute or whatever. And now they're like, well, we wish we didn't do that. Okay. It's important for leaders to admit when they make mistakes.
So I agree with that.
I will give him credit for that.
Let's give a little side hero note to Jonathan Greenblatt.
Yeah. Secondly, I will say, if you're calling me as a potential client or client, do not mention how you use AI for law purposes. I will scream and get angry.
He does do that, just so you know.
Not scream, but get really annoyed.
He speaks firmly, like when he sends me text saying, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. All right, Peter, I feel we were very informative, and I think we really hit the layoff. We had some good notes on layoffs, on how to handle them.
Yeah. And also one thing for the regular viewers, you may notice we've rolled out our new logo and some graphics this week.
Thank you.
We want to thank our friend of the pod, Maria Quinn Shaw, and Mammoth, her agency. They do great work. And we're going to be rolling out some music next week too. So be on the lookout.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We love our logo and excited for music.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Take care, Laura.